This line fits perfectly on a blues in bar 7, 8 and 9. This secondary dominant I'm talking about has a huge part in any jazz tune you're going to play. And when you see this, all the dominants I have marked are secondary dominants. That's quite a lot. Are you maybe looking at all these dominants maybe thinking, hey, what's actually happening here? Or are you maybe lost in what scales or what chords you have to use when you are going to another key or using other dominants in the tunes? This video takes you through how to know how to play and how to practice the secondary dominants in these jazz tunes. Let's get comfortable and check this secondary dominant out. We need to do a bit of explaining about the secondary dominant first. What you see here in the major scale, we have one dominant, and that's the G7 chord. This is going into the C. This is the normal dominant, the 5 to the 1. The dominant to the tonic. And you can hear this clear dominant movement when you play a simple line like this, going from G7 into C major. And this dominant is just called the dominant. Opposite the dominant, the secondary dominant is not your ordinary dominant, but the dominant to all the other chords in the scale. So not the dominant to the C, but the dominant to the D, the E minor, the F major, the G7 and the A. This guy to you, but to me a great friend, an amazing musician, an amazing saxophone player, actually just brought out 2 books. This is the books of Simon Richter, Moving Motives. And he asked me to look at these, and I'm honored. I took a look at these books and the information in there is epic. I think these books covers all the exercises and all the training you actually need to be able to improvise on jazz. But looking through the books, I stumbled over this exercise on this material, and this is what I really want to dig into. Simon Richter is checking out the secondary dominants like this, and this is an amazing method. What Simon is thinking and what he wants us to do is check out all the dominants to all the steps in the scale, because you use them so much when you're playing jazz. And this makes so much sense because we're using these steps in the scale when we're playing jazz all the time. The key now would probably have seen that I'm leaving out the dominant to that B half diminished 7. I consider the B half diminished 7 a part of the G7, the up structure of the G7. It's such a strong dominant shape in itself that it's just leading into the C major. Now on this page, Simon Richter shows us this genius but very simple approach. How to learn these dominants. We just start to add all the dominants to the steps in the scale. Now try play this. And see how much sense it makes. It basically takes all the dominant scale and just resolves them into the tonic chord, so the step of the scale. He's playing down from the 7th of the dominant chord into the 3rd of the following chord. At the same time, it's so easy to overview what scales you're going to use into what steps of the scale. The famous jazz standard tune Autumn Leaves is a great example to show this. The first 3 bars of the tune is the D minor G7 C, so a common 2-5-1 in C major. In bar 6 and 7 you see this E7 going into the A minor 7. And the E7 A minor we recognize from our scale check just from before. The diatonic step is the 6th step of the C major scale. E7 going into the 6th step, A minor. So the E7 here is a secondary dominant into the A minor chord. For the keen people out there on theory, I'm thinking the tune in C major, not in A minor. You would probably see the tune as A minor, but that's a different story. So what Simon Richter is doing here, he's using the A harmonic minor scale on the E7. You will, for the most part, when playing these scales, use diatonic material. The only exception is mostly the 3rd you are going to change. You want the leading tone into the chord you're resolving to. Which means you're basically using the C major scale. You see all the C major scale tones, but you have this G sharp that's sticking out. That's not C major. The G sharp falls totally outside C major, but it fits greatly towards the A minor chord. And this is exactly because you want the dominant leading tone going into that A, and the G sharp is the leading tone towards A. That's why we add this extra G sharp into the E7, getting that dominant sound. When you use this system of Simon Richter, you can easily get the overview of what leading tones lead into what chords. If you play the scales up from the 3rd to the 3rd, they actually resolve into the root of the chords you're going into. When you want to dig into the sounds of the secondary dominant, I of course advise you to check out the lesson manual, where I have made lots of exercise and lots of licks on how to practice the secondary dominant going into all these amazing resolve in the diatonic scale. And you should of course check out the amazing books of Simon Richter. They are crazy good. Of course, there's a link to where you can buy the books and download the lesson manual PDF, all in the description of this video. I really want to go all in on this book because there's a lot of great exercise in here. See how Simon Richter takes it down now. He's really thinking about how to learn the sounds of the dominant, so he starts with triads exercises. In this way you get a clear sound on how the tones are moving into each other, and I must say it's a bit of a mesmerizing sound, like a classical etude. Also in the book of Simon Richter he takes it a step further, adding the 7th chord into the mix. And then you get this real dominant sound we know from jazz. In the exercise I've made here, which is also in the lesson manual on Patreon, I have added a chromatic step into the 3rd of the dominant in the next bar. So when you're playing Autumn Leaves or any other song and you are going to the 6th degree minor, you can tap into this system and see what scale do I need to use to get to the 6th degree. You have a clear overview of what scale fits the dominance going into any of the functions. Now I want you to just take a short look on this tune, I'll Remember April. When you want to start looking at other tunes than tunes in C, the same system applies. You just take it into another key. And again, you can easily find the scales to any of the chords there. The dominant scale going into that diatonic step. To get a much clearer view of how to navigate all these secondary dominant, I definitely recommend you to download the lesson manual PDF on Patreon, where all lines and all exercises, plus lots and lots more, are written out in all 12 keys. And remember to check out the books of Simon Richter. This is really great stuff. Reading through and playing in these books gets you a great inside view on how to develop your jazz language. The exercise and the lines of Simon Richter and the exercise and the lines in this lesson are not the same, so you get 2 different sets of material, getting the book or getting the lesson manual PDF. And the links to Simon Richter's book are both in the description in this video. So now I really want to break out something completely different. I advise you not to study really long lines and try to put them into your music, because it's almost impossible. Practice small phrases. I would go so far to say practice patterns. Check out how Coltrane does this. Play music, have fun.